Well, welcome to my new video. This is Jay from rightsprite.co.uk, and today is going to be a bit of a fanboy type of episode where I'm a bit of a Sega fanboy myself, and I know there are a lot of people that are a fan of the Sega Dreamcast. Now personally, it's one of my favourite consoles of all time. I'd just like to start a bit of a series going on the life of the Dreamcast after the cancellation of it, and what games came out on the consoles with the generation and also after, and what Sega used to do to work with the companies. So as you know, the Xbox is a lot bigger, but there are a lot of resemblance with the Sega Dreamcast. You can see by the shape and the 4 ports, and also with the controllers themselves. So we've got the Dreamcast on the left and the Xbox on the right. You got your analogs on the top left, and you got your D-pads on the bottom left. But most noticeably, you can see on the top, you got your memory card slots and your triggers. And on the original Xbox, you got your memory card slots as well, and your triggers. Now here's a couple of pictures of some early prototypes of designs of the original Xbox controller, and you will notice that they actually wanted to feature something very similar to the VMU. So they wanted to have an interactive screen on the controller as well. Now shortly after the Sega Dreamcast cancellation, the Sega Japan, the president, actually wanted the original Xbox to feature backwards compatibility with the Dreamcast. Now this would really help the Xbox to be seen as a Dreamcast 2.0 or something. But Microsoft actually went ahead and did their own thing. Quick look at the Dreamcast itself, and you will notice in the bottom right hand corner it states that it's compatible with Windows CE. So that states that Microsoft was already in partnership with the Dreamcast. I believe that this was used, and then they can port PC games much easier to the system because it utilizes a DirectX engine, which back in the day, or even still today, a lot of the PC games were using that engine, so they can just port the games a lot quicker and a lot easier. And there's only been a couple of Dreamcast games. This is Sega Rally 2, the Japanese one I picked up. And at the bottom corner there, it states that it was powered by Windows CE. So the game is basically used with that DirectX engine, but there was a lot of noticeable flaws with that engine. There was a lot of frame rate dips with this game, so it wasn't a favourable engine to use because it wasn't utilising the maximum power of the Dreamcast. So there's only been a few games, but as I said, they want to try and port PC games to this console to bring to the console market. The president of Sega in America was a guy called Peter Moore, and after the cancellation of the Dreamcast, he moved over to Microsoft's Xbox. Now, I believe he is now the vice president of Xbox. He may not be now, I don't know, I haven't really looked into it. And he actually helped push this console and moved a lot of the Sega Dreamcast games that were being made at that time to be moved over to the Xbox. And I'm just going to show you a few lists of the games that were released for this console and were published and made by Sega. So there are around 40 released titles by Sega to the original Xbox, but there are around 8 to 10 exclusive games to the system. First one I'm going to show you is Panzer, Dragoon, Orta. And in Japan they had their own exclusive console. Never got released over the western side. So this game was originally designed for the Sega Dreamcast, but then things got ported over to the original Xbox and made it an exclusive game. Now this game has got some really good quality videos, and the graphics are pretty stunning, especially for the time. So this is a typical rail shooter, just like the original games that came out for the Sega Saturn, both Panzer, Dragoon 1 and 2. The saga was a bit different, so they went back to the old roots. So in the year 2000, Sega broke up into many organizations and companies within the Sega brand, and one of them being Smilebit. So these guys were behind most of the exclusives for the original Xbox. Now one cool thing about this game, as you progress and you manage to complete it, you unlock features through the Pandora's Box special option,
and one of them is the Panzer Dragoon Zooey. I think that's the second one in the series, so you can play the entire original second release game for the Sega Saturn. Now here's one of the bosses, and yeah, the boss battles are pretty awesome in this game. Released in 2002 in the PAL territories, this is a science fiction game based on an alternative history where the British Empire rules the Earth and various extrasolar planets. I would say this game reminds me a bit of Metroid mixed with Phantasy Star. The game runs really well, but a lot of the problems with this game, a lot of people said, is the controls. There's a bit of a love-or-hate relationship with it. But I'm finding as I progress with the game, I'm actually getting used to the controls. And this was another title that was supposed to be originally designed for the Sega Dreamcast in mind. Now this was supposed to utilise a very unique control scheme using both the light gun and the controller at the same time. So I think this is where the game suffered with when they ported it over, because that's what the control scheme they had in mind. But I'm still enjoying this game, and it's definitely worth the pickup.
And we finally get a sequel to Sega Mega Drive's key franchise, which was originally going to be released for the Sega Saturn, but then it got put on hold, and then a lot of the game was made for the Sega Dreamcast. When that got cancelled, it got put back on the shelf, and then we finally get our copy. Now here I am flicking my thumb to the humans to convert them, so it's kept the same humour as the original games, and it's actually kept some of the characters from the original.
Yo, check it. Press the white button to get in and out of the map.
And it's still got its pretty 80s, 90s humour, which is brilliant.
Yo, what's going on?
It's still a bit of fun. You can have co-op play, so I do recommend, grabbing a buddy to play this game. But I did notice there's a lot of VSync issues and some bit of frame rate drops. But one thing I couldn't get on was these videos. When the characters were speaking, they didn't actually sit well with the original audience. But when you put them aside, the game is not too bad. Released in 2002, and we got a sequel to The House of the Dead 2. Now this is originally released for the Xbox first. Now a lot of ports did come after for the Wii and the PS3. Now as you can see, the graphics are pretty tidy, really pushing the Xbox what it could do. The game runs really smooth. This is probably the worst in the series for me, because I find it a lot easier than the original 2. It's definitely less challenging, but it's still a hell lot of fun. And with this version, if you've got it hooked up to a CRT TV, you can use the official Xbox licensed arcade light guns. So you got your boss battles back, and they're pretty awesome. And the multiple choice select comes back, really giving that replayability. Of course, you got your cheesy 80s,
was my father
very
always
bad
involved
voice
in
acting.
missions like this?
Yeah.
Produced by the main man himself, Yu Suzuki. Now this game did get ported later on to other systems, but this was first an exclusive to the Xbox console. Now this game just looks and runs absolutely great, and it is so much fun. Now this is another title that was originally developed for the Chihiro arcade system and ported straight to the Xbox. And something unique about this Xbox version, you can unlock secret tracks from Scud Race and Daytona USA 2. Now this game was developed by a company called Sumo Digital that is still carrying on making games for Sega. They are a British based company. Well, shortly after, in 2004, there was an updated release called Outrun 2 SP, short for Special Tours. Now this was based on a Sega Limburg arcade board, which is a more powerful arcade system. Now the updated arcade game features some unique content that did not get ported over to the console, such as extra cars, extra music tracks, and even the original Outrun game itself. This content would have been unlocked as the player completes the Outrun challenge missions. So this game has some great features such as party games, mini games, and also you can LAN battle, so you can connect two Xbox and have two screens having multiplayer modes.
The Xbox 360 and the PS3 also got a release with a game titled Outrun Online Arcade. Now this featured higher definition graphics with online support with up to 6 players head to head. But due to the license agreement with Ferrari, the game was only on shelf for a year and had to be taken off the store.
But if you're a Yu Suzuki fan and you love the previous games, this is totally worth the pickup.
Now this is a bit of an oddball of a game. This is a remake of a Mega Drive game that never got a Western release. Now this is in a unusual innovation type of genre, but if you're used to DC games now, this is more of a casual side to you. In Japan, they had a Dreamcast release in the year 2000, and then in 2003 the Xbox got an enhanced version, giving it online compatibilities. So the game starts off at a house party of yours with your family, and your father's dressed up as some type of monster, so it's already sounding a bit wacky already. And when you order some food for the party, an old man turns up and gives you a superhero costume, just to try out. So you check it on, and the first thing you do, you just decide to hit your own father and knock him out with one hit. Now the old man gives you a game console as well called the Dreamcast, yes, spelled with C, and this is where they can actually communicate with you to give you the work that needs to be done to become a superhero. So I'm just checking out my first job. The first job you actually get is to go around promoting Rent a Hero as a business. So here I am just handing out some flyers. I got 7 left to give, and one guy you actually bump into is Sega Sasatsuyo man himself, which was the original Japanese guy that promoted the Sega Saturn console. So you have a cheeky little spar with him, and he actually gives you some extra combos so you can progress the game through. Now I haven't played much of this game, but this game has been appraised for the good rock steady 60 frames per second with fluid character animation, and has been praised as for the texture models that rival games like Sonic Adventure and Soul Calibur. With the Xbox release, an English translated version was set to hit North America, but due to distribution problems, it was cancelled. Therefore, we now actually got an English version. But in 2008, the ISO was actually leaked online where people can actually play this game in English, and that's how I got my hands on this copy. Personally, this is my favourite title from the exclusives. It's packed with great character animation, design, unique gameplay, alongside its brilliant soundtrack. It was one of the first titles to actually use cel-shaded style of animation, which later games like Borderlands end up adapting. Just look at these two guys go for it. I could just watch this for hours. And look at this dog. Look at those glasses. Those 3D retro glasses. Pretty awesome. Anyway, here are some shots of the world environment. Pretty ahead for its time, I would say. The game is very similar to the original Dreamcast release. It depicts a future Tokyo where freedom of expression is completely outlawed. So you play as a character in the GG, a gang of inline skating and graffiti artists who skate around Tokyo covering up all the rival gangs. There has been a few extra additions from the original game. Players can now perform mid-air tricks, grind on rails and up poles and ride on the walls. Players can also boost and move around the stages quicker. Game modes on the original make their way back, like battle racing, and also the Rakaku make a return.
Yo, the Rakaku group's dogs just showed up. and they probably ain't looking for your autographs. Let's use those pretty white shirts and do some serious artwork.
One of the main features that I do like about this game is you can create your own graffiti art. So you can go around in the future of Japan spraying around with your custom tag. So here we have one of my favourite arcade games of all time. Now the first one came out on the Dreamcast and so did the second one, and this was an exclusive to the Xbox, and I believe it also got a PC release.
Crazy Taxi 3! High Roller!
One of the main reasons that this game got a bit of a cult following is because of its unique soundtrack, featuring bands like The Offspring, Bad Religion, Pivot and Silver Bullet, which is basically marrying the two favourite things that I do enjoy, punk rock music and video games. This game features the maps from the previous releases, whilst including the abilities from the second title and adding some extra additions. This was another title that was specifically designed for the Sega Chihiro arcade board, and this became basically a straight port. Later on in the video I will explain what the Chihiro system was all about.
It's your lucky day!
It includes challenges from the previous releases with incorporating new ones, making this a great entry to the series, and sadly it was the last one that we actually got to the console market.
Touchdown!
Here are some quick honourable mentions. This was another one planned for the DC to rival Sony's Gran Turismo 3, but it got reprogrammed to release for the Xbox. The following year, Sega GT Online was released with extra cars and an online facility to use with the Xbox Live. This game at the time actually got some favourable critics. But at the same time there were quite a lot of other car racing games, making the target market quite saturated, making this release to be overshadowed by its competitors. It's quite interesting to play a more serious title by Sega, but personally I enjoy more of the arcade style of gameplay. This is the second one in the series and was originally released as a Dreamcast exclusive. It then later got ported to the PlayStation 2, but then in 2004 it was released as a collection of both the first game and the second one as an Xbox exclusive. The Saturn game actually contains higher resolution of the arcade version, whilst the second one got an enhanced remake, where it actually utilises the DOA volleyball engine, which was a later release, giving the game new game content and online gameplay. Japan were very lucky on having their own limited edition Kazumi-chan Blue console. The Dreamcast version was only released in Japan and here in Europe. Shortly after, in 2002, Microsoft secured exclusive rights in North America and released an enhanced port exclusive for the Xbox. Then in 2003 it was released worldwide. At the time, the reviews for the port were quite mixed and critics finding the graphics lacking compared to the other Xbox games at the time. Since then, it has now been appeared as one of the greatest games of all time. This port features additional camera mode, optional filter effects with improved frame rate and lighting. And one important thing for a lot of you fans out there, it includes the English language voice acting. One key feature it did remove though from the original DC release was its cross-save play. For players that never got to play this on the DC originally and were new to the Xbox, it also came with a DVD movie titled Shenmue the Movie. It contains cutscenes from the original game. This actually got a release in the theatres in Japan. The Sega Chihiro is an arcade board produced by Sega in 2003. It is based on the specs matching that of the Xbox, with the same processor and NVIDIA graphics card. It is also utilising the same GD-ROM like the Dreamcast and the Naomi arcade board. At the back of the board you will also notice the same video output as the Xbox, however the RAM has been upgraded to 1GB. There were a total of 11 games released for the Chihiro, and 5 of them made them across to the Xbox. However, some players have managed to modify their Xbox by upgrading the RAM capacity to 128 MB, unlocking the potential of playing the remaining Chihiro titles. Most noticeably, one of them being Virtual Cop 3, which still today hasn't got a console release. Sega were very passionate about working with Microsoft to help push this Xbox, as the arcade board is almost identical to the Xbox hardware itself, making sure that they could easily manage to port the games over to the console. Well, thank you if you managed to stick around for this entire video. This has been quite the ambitious one to make for a YouTube newbie like myself. I'd just like to thank Modern Vincent Gamer and Top Hat Gamer for providing great videos on this same topic. I recommend checking them out. I'll provide the links below. If you like this video, then hit that button to support this channel, click subscribe, leave your comments below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.